This is the screen from the Mazda 3 Gen 4s, and it's not great. As you can see, it has thick-ass bezels and an anti-glare coating that I don't love. I have a couple scratches in it, which I'm pretty sure are just on the coating, but thankfully, we can actually replace it with a better one. Thanks to this thread from Daniel Lee on the Mazda 3 forums, we've come to find out that the CX-5 2021 and up, or whatever that generation is, actually is compatible with the Mazda 3. As soon as one was available in decent condition, I picked it up on eBay and it actually works. I'm going to walk you through what I had to do to install it. Before we hop in, actually, you're going to have to modify the new screen to get it to fit physically. I would highly recommend that you verify that it electrically, that everything works before. That way you could potentially return it if it's damaged before you do this, because once you start chopping away, I doubt anybody's going to take that return. Just a heads up. Even here at the home screen, everything is immediately better. You have much higher contrast. It's way sharper because you don't have that anti-glare coating. Of course, you do get more reflections, as you can kind of see, but I would take this every day of the week. It looks so good. And physically, these actually aren't too dissimilar. It's just that this has a gigantic bezel all around, especially on the left and right. And jumping into Android Auto to give you a better look. Wow, it is a huge difference, and I'm so glad it works. I'm going to do my best to show you the mounting and unmounting process. So right behind the display, the stock display, of course, is going to be a little bit different, but you're going to need to get a pry tool. I have a set link down below, but you can get a pry tool right underneath here and just work it around. I've already pre-loosened this just for the sake of making this a lot easier. But once you get that removed, you'll have access to the actual bolts. There are two 10mm bolts, so you need a socket and ratchet to remove those. Again, that's 10mm. Once you get those loosened and removed, you can just kind of pop it out. The only thing to be mindful of when removing the original screen is that on top of those bolts, it's also kind of secured in by these little clips at the bottom on either side. Originally, I thought that I would have to go in and loosen them, but once you have the 10mm bolts loosened, you can just kind of pop this out by just slowly creeping up on either side until eventually it just comes loose. And of course, you're gonna have two cables to remove those, and then you can move on. Since, of course, Mazda didn't make these screens with the intention of them being interchangeable, the mounting hardware is not the same. So what I had to do is remove the original bracket that came from the original screen, and you're going to need to pry open the casing, I believe, to get access to that. I already have it removed, so you can just kind of pry in from one of these sides, get something in here, go around, and you can pop this panel completely off to get access to remove that. I could be wrong, and you might be able to remove it before that step, but either way, you're going to need to remove 3 screws to remove that bracket, because we're going to reuse that. As you can imagine, some modifications were absolutely necessary. Mainly the hump of the new screen just will not fit in the dash, so I trimmed it off with the rotary tool. I tried trimming less originally, but now I can totally see why the original poster did this. Works out pretty good. The original bracket from the original screen is in use, but you need to make some modifications. I enlarged the central hole right here. That way I could use the hardware of the new screen, and I also made a new hole right here to match one of the pre-existing holes on the new screen as well, and that worked out pretty good. You might need to use a punch and a drill just to make your life easier. I didn't use a punch because I didn't have one on hand, and it was a pain in the butt, but it works out really nicely, and that way it's just a much cleaner look. And once you have that, you are almost good to go. Now it's a matter of connecting the connectors, which are the same exact ones as in the original screen. Just plug those in, mount the bracket right where the original was, and get your bolts screwed in. Push the start stop button once, and on your first try you should get a Mazda logo. I already did it once, so I'm going straight to the home screen. But once you have this, you know that it is working. Now there's one last thing to tackle. The original screen had a third point of contact at the bottom with these pins, and for good reason. If you run it without a third point of contact, the screen will vibrate as soon as you start moving. Not ideal at all for legibility, so you need something. There's no easy way of transplanting this because even if I did, the Z depth just doesn't match with the new screen from what I can tell. So for now, I'm using a couple of pieces of heavy duty adhesive Velcro. I put one on the screen side, one on the dash side, and it is working out okay. I've been running this for about a week now and it has been super solid. Everything works just as expected, auto dimming and everything. Daniel did mention that he had issues with auto dimming for a bit. I never experienced any of those. It has been working super nice. So if we could figure out a better way of mounting it at the bottom, that would be great. But still, I love the experience. It's so much better than the original screen. And especially when using third-party Android boxes, which you can check out the video I made it about one over here. It is amazing. I just wish it was a touchscreen. That would be the only thing that could make it even better. But man, I love it. I'm going to be using it for the foreseeable future of this car. So if you have any questions, leave a comment down below and I'm going to do my best to respond there. If this was helpful, leave a like, subscribe to the channel for potential updates on this if I do figure out a better solution for the mounting. Anyway, thanks for watching. See ya.